Meanwhile, down in Georgia, devil's in the details, and that is just what the court has ordered Lindsey Graham to spill. Details. Federal judge ruled today that the GOP senator has to testify in that grand jury probe of the efforts to overturn the 2020 election results in that state. The judge said that Senator Graham, quote, may be questioned about any alleged efforts to, quote, cajole, encourage the Secretary of State, Raffensperger, or other Georgia election officials to throw out ballots or otherwise alter Georgia's election practices and procedures, end quote. And then up north in D.C., this guy, former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich, he has just been told that the January 6th committee wants to talk to him about a letter that he sent to Trump's advisors, guiding them about their advertising on TV to try to convince Americans that the election was stolen. Here is what the committee says Gingrich wrote in that letter. Quote, the goal is to arouse the country's anger through new verifiable information the American people have never seen before. If we inform the American people in a way they find convincing and it arouses their anger, they will then bring pressure on legislators and governors. With me now to make sense of all these legal fronts, former CIA and FBI Special Agent Tracy Walder and former federal prosecutor Andrew Cherkasky. Okay, so first, Tracy, let's go back to the library book business. This is your business, you know, classified documents and all the rest. And the comparison about it being an overdue library book caught a lot of people by surprise. What was your take on that?
Quite frankly, it's really nothing short of offensive to me. You know, I look at these documents, you know, the overdue library book is what my 7-year-old forgot to bring to school today to return. These documents really have our sources and methods and put human lives at risk, human assets at risk. And having them in this manner, in such sort of a careless way, really can cause people to be killed. And this is much, much more than an overdue library book.
So I'm going to switch to the person who took first chair, Andrew Cherkasky. That was Chris Kise. He's the new lawyer who's been brought on board, and he is like no joke, you know, former solicitor in Florida. He's got an incredible resume. He's, I think, won 4 cases in front of SCOTUS, so he's powerhouse. He is not the same as the lawyers that have been going on TV and saying all these things, which I know would be like, you know, it would be like nails on a chalkboard to you. How do you put that into this whole picture of Trump fighting these fronts with these lawyers, you know, going on TV who are less than helpful?
Well, I think Mr. Trump needed a new face on his legal team because he has been getting a lot of criticism for the plan that has essentially brought them where they are right now. And it really looks like Donald Trump's legal team may have caused some of this hot water in the first place. What we're learning more about now is that response to the subpoena to the grand jury in early June, where we have his attorneys potentially having made false representations about the nature of certain documents. And we know that that's a DOJ kind of special. You don't end up getting somebody on the underlying crime. You get them on the lie that they told to the DOJ or to the FBI or to a grand jury. We've seen it happen multiple times. We saw Sussman recently be acquitted in a special with the special prosecutor Durham having taken him for false statements made to the FBI to trial. So there's quite a bit that is going on with his legal team that I think seems to be getting him in more trouble. And so to put a new face on this case seems like a good idea. Then we have blunders like the library book reference there. I don't know that that's going to make much difference, and I don't think that it's going to impress the judge much. So you got to be very careful how his lawyers walk this path that seems to have not been so artful up to this point.
Yeah, and the whole special master business, everybody gets all wound up about it, but truly it's just sort of it's like a delay tactic. It's something that'll just take longer. That's all. It's not going to change the case one iota, so nobody should get all, you know, freaked out about it. But the thing is, Tracy, one of the details that was released today in the hearing was about the inventory list, and the judge in the case so that she might be inclined to actually release the more detailed inventory list. This is your kind of work, right? You're the person as an agent who goes in and categorizes all these things in these very, secretive searches and seizures. And oftentimes this stuff is never made public, especially when someone's not even charged. Do you think there's any harm in just yet another drip, drip, drip of, what was taken by the FBI officials if she does, in fact, decide to release an extended inventory list?
So I think that there's harm really to Trump, quite frankly. I'm not sure that there's harm necessarily, to American secrets, if you will, because the reality is the information that is top secret SCI or even secret SCI cannot be released. I mean, that's against the law. It can't be released. But what this will do is kind of provide maybe a broad look at what some of this information is. And as you saw in the affidavit, even though a lot of it was redacted and it had sort of that Swiss cheese effect, it was very easy to tell just how classified some of these documents were. And so I suspect if she asks them to release a more detailed inventory list, in my opinion, it's going to look worse for Trump, quite frankly, and not going to do him any favors.
Okay, I've only got a minute left, but Andrew, I just want you to try to help me understand the significance of the judge saying today that this whole issue of executive privilege of former presidents isn't settled law. Meaning, once you're out of office, don't start pulling that executive privilege business. There's some discussion that you do have limited executive privilege, but sharing things with the DOJ is sharing it with the executive. So how is this even a discussion?
Well, there's really complicated issues that the Supreme Court, I think, is going to have to settle here about the nature of the power of a president. And so when President Trump took these documents essentially out of this secret handling and put it in his personal residence, was he effectively declassifying them and turning them into his own public records, essentially, at that point? And so those are complicated questions. And I don't think just going at the term executive privilege is going to answer the question. I think the Supreme Court's going to be looking at many other things like the unitary executive and the powers that the president has over the entire executive branch. So many interesting points on that. And I think that's ultimately the big thing, not just what we're seeing on this special master business, like you were saying. These are big questions that are going to take months or years to answer.
Okay, so mark off another day next week, and you're going to go over all that again, because I need a little bit more guidance on all of that stuff, and I find it boringly fascinating. Tracy Walder and Andrew Cherkasky, thank you both. Appreciate it. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider, and don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.